Welcome back to the All Sorts podcast, where we just love digging into these topics that kind of make you go, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be tackling something that I think affects all of us, but we rarely examine it closely.
Right.
Gerontology, the study of aging.
It's interesting how aging is often seen as this far-off concept.
Right.
Something we only deal with when we hit, a certain age.
Yeah, it's easy to push it to the back of our minds.
Yeah.
I'll worry about that, when I'm 80 years old and I'm picking up my retirement home.
Right.
Reminiscing about the good old days.
Yeah.
But the truth is, aging is a process that begins much earlier than we realize.
Oh, yeah.
You might even say it starts before birth.
That's right. Scientists have actually discovered these things called epigenetic clocks.
Interesting.
Which are like a biological odometer for our bodies.
Whoa.
They don't just measure how many years we've lived, but they track changes in our DNA over time.
Okay, so break that down for me. I'm picturing a tiny little clock inside of my cells just ticking away.
You can imagine it more like the mileage on a car.
Okay.
Two cars can be from the same year,
Right.
But they could have drastically different mileage depending on how they were driven and how they were maintained.
Oh, interesting.
So similarly, two people can be the same age but have very different biological ages based on their genetics, their lifestyle, and the environment.
So it's not just about how many birthday cakes we've, blown the candles out on.
Yeah.
It's about the wear and tear on our bodies at a cellular level.
Precisely. And these epigenetic clocks reveal that aging is already at work even before we take our first breath.
Whoa.
It's a continuous journey, not just a sudden event that happens when we hit 65.
Right. That's a pretty profound shift in perspective.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that aging isn't something to fear or avoid.
Right.
It's just simply part of being alive.
Absolutely. And understanding that can empower us to make choices that support healthy aging throughout our lives.
Right.
But before we get too far, let's clear up a common misconception or confusion.
Right.
The difference between gerontology and geriatrics.
Yes. I will admit, I used to think those were the same thing.
Yeah.
Isn't it all just about old people and their health?
Well, geriatrics is a branch of medicine that focuses on the health problems of older adults.
Okay.
So similar to how pediatrics focuses on children,
Right.
it's about treating diseases and conditions that are specific to later life.
So that's the doctor you see when you start having all those aches and pains that we all joke about
You could say that.
when you get older?
Yeah, but gerontology takes a much broader approach.
Oh.
It's the study of aging as a whole,
Right.
the biological, the psychological, social, and even economic aspects.
Wow.
It looks at how we change over time, not just the medical challenges.
That makes sense. It's like the difference between studying the human body and then being a heart surgeon. One is about understanding the whole system.
Yeah.
The other one's focusing on a very specific part.
Exactly. And because aging affects so many different aspects of our lives,
Right.
gerontology draws insights from a variety of fields. You have biologists who are studying the cellular changes. You have psychologists exploring, cognitive and emotional development.
Right.
Sociologists examining how society views older adults, even economists
Right.
who are analyzing the impact of an aging population.
Wow. It's a truly multidisciplinary field.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think something as every day as just getting older would be so complex and fascinating.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. And the more we learn about it, the more we realize it's not just about decline.
Right.
It's about change and adaptation.
Uh-huh.
In fact, some of the changes that come with age are surprisingly positive.
Okay. Now you've got my attention. Tell me about the good stuff.
Sure.
What gets better
Sure.
as we age?
Well, one common misconception is that people become grumpier as they get older.
Yeah.
But research suggests the opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, studies have shown that older adults are actually less prone to anger and negativity.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
I always thought it was people get set in their ways and they're like, get off my lawn, you kids.
That's a stereotype,
Okay.
not a scientific fact.
Gotcha.
And there's a few theories about this, why older adults tend to be more agreeable.
Okay.
Some researchers think it's because they've had more time to develop coping mechanisms and regulate their emotions.
That makes sense.
Other researchers think that they're better at prioritizing positive experiences and letting go of negative ones.
So it's not that they're ignoring problems.
Right.
They're just choosing to focus on the good.
Yeah.
I like that perspective.
Yeah, and it's not just about being happier. Studies have also shown that people tend to become more empathetic
Okay.
and compassionate as they get older.
That's really nice.
Yeah, and in fact, your ability to understand and respond to other people's emotions actually peaks in your 40s.
Really? Okay.
So you've got that to look forward to.
I do.
In your midlife.
Yeah, that's nice.
And here's another one that might surprise you. Research suggests that women report greater sexual satisfaction
All right.
as they age, with satisfaction peaking in their 80s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Defying expectations.
We need to debunk that myth that aging equals a decline in intimacy and pleasure.
Absolutely. Aging brings changes, but it doesn't have to mean a decline in any area of life, especially when it comes to relationships and intimacy.
Yeah, this is already making me rethink my assumptions about aging.
Good.
It's not just about wrinkles and gray hair. It's about these fascinating changes in our emotional and social lives as well.
Precisely. And speaking of changes, let's talk about some surprising facts about the biological side of aging.
Okay.
We already talked about those epigenetic clocks.
Yeah.
But did you know that your DNA sustains a ridiculous amount of damage every day?
Damn, like what kind of damage are we talking
Yeah,
about?
so we're talking about 100,000 incidents of damage
100,000.
to your DNA every single day.
What?
Yeah, it's a constant bombardment from things like UV radiation pollution, even just the normal metabolic processes that are happening inside of our cells.
100,000. That sounds terrifying.
It is.
Like, how are we even functioning with all that damage going on?
Thankfully, our bodies are incredibly resilient. Our cells have built-in repair mechanisms that are constantly working to fix this damage. And it's remarkable, but it does become less efficient as we age.
Okay, so it's like a car that's been in a few fender benders.
Uh-huh.
Might still run, but it's not going to be as smooth and reliable as it once was.
That's a great analogy. And this decline in this repair efficiency is one of the key factors contributing to those visible signs of aging.
Right.
Like wrinkles and age spots and weakened immune system.
Right. This makes you appreciate how hard our bodies are working every single day
to
keep us healthy and functioning.
Yeah, it's a constant battle against entropy.
Absolutely. And so this kind of brings us to another interesting fact about aging.
Yeah.
The longevity gender gap. I've definitely heard this before, that women tend to outlive men.
For sure.
What's the science behind that?
So lifestyle choices play a role.
Okay.
Women on average tend to engage in healthier behaviors like seeing the doctor more regularly and avoiding risky things like smoking.
Right.
But there's also a biological component.
Interesting. What do you mean?
Well, women have 2 X chromosomes.
Uh-huh.
Men have 1 X and 1 Y.
Okay.
This means that women have a backup copy of every gene on their sex chromosomes.
Oh, so it's like a genetic safety net.
Yes,
If
exactly.
one copy of a gene gets damaged, they have a spare.
Precisely. And this genetic redundancy might offer women greater protection against certain diseases and cellular damage, which could be contributing to their longer lifespans.
Wow, this deep dive is already blowing my mind. We've gone from tiny clocks in our cells to genetic safety nets.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about all these factors that are going on and how they impact how we age.
Yeah, and we've only just scratched the surface.
I know.
There's so much more to explore, like, debunking common myths about aging and even understanding how our environment impacts the way we age.
Right. I'm ready for more.
Yeah.
This is making me see aging in a whole new light.
Good.
It's fascinating.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Love it.
Good. I think one of the biggest myths we need to debunk is that age is a barrier to success.
Right.
We're often told that, success is a young person's game and that
Yeah.
after a certain age, it's all downhill from there.
You're telling me I've peaked.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
There are so many examples of people achieving great things later in life. Like Colonel Sanders, for instance. He didn't franchise Kentucky Fried Chicken till he was 65.
Okay, but that's I feel like everybody knows that story.
Yeah.
Are there other examples of these late bloomers?
Oh, tons.
Okay.
Colonel Sanders is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Noah Webster published his famous dictionary at the age of 70.
Wow.
Grandma Moses didn't start painting until she was in her 70s. Really?
And then went on to become a celebrated folk artist.
That's amazing. So what is it about these individuals that allowed them to thrive later in life?
Well, it's a combination of factors,
Yeah.
but one thing that's really key is what we talked about earlier, crystallized intelligence.
Right.
This is the type of intelligence that comes from accumulated knowledge and experience.
Okay.
It's the wisdom we gain from navigating life's ups and downs, trying different things,
Yeah.
learning from our mistakes.
So it's not about being book smart.
Right.
It's about having all this experience to draw upon.
Exactly. And this type of intelligence actually continues to develop and even improve well into our later years.
Really?
While certain cognitive functions might decline slightly with age, crystallized intelligence often becomes our superpower as we age.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Making me think about all the different things. I've tried all the different jobs I've had, all the different skills I've picked up. Maybe they're not just random chapters in my story.
Maybe they're actually building blocks for something bigger.
Exactly. And it ties back to why age shouldn't be seen as a limitation.
Yeah.
You know, even those experiences that we might consider failures are part of developing our crystallized intelligence.
It's almost like a reframing of like what success is.
Right.
You know, maybe it's not about hitting certain milestones by a certain age.
Right.
It's about continuing to learn and grow and become a more well-rounded person.
That's a much more empowering and realistic view of success.
Definitely takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
You know, like I got to have it all figured out by 30.
Right, exactly.
I can just kind of keep going and it'll be a more fulfilling journey.
Exactly. And it highlights how important it is to embrace lifelong learning.
Right.
Never stop exploring new interests and challenging ourselves.
Love it.
No matter how old we are.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. We've talked about genetics. We've talked about lifestyle choices. But what about the impact of our environment on aging? Does that play a role too?
Absolutely. Our environment can have a profound impact on how we age, both positively and negatively.
Okay.
So think about things like, you know, air pollution, exposure to toxins, even chronic stress.
Yeah.
These factors can accelerate the aging process at a cellular level.
So it's not just about what we're putting into our bodies.
Right.
It's about what we're exposed to in our surroundings.
Exactly. And there's a growing field of research that is focused on this thing called gerontogens.
Gerontogens?
Yeah.
What is that?
So these are environmental factors that can accelerate aging.
Okay, so like what are some examples?
Air pollution is a big one. Those tiny particles from car exhaust and industrial emissions, even wildfires, can damage our cells and contribute to inflammation, which is linked to a whole host of age-related diseases.
Very.
Yeah, especially if you live in a city
Right.
where air pollution is a constant concern.
Yeah, and it's not just air pollution, right?
No.
Like what about the chemicals in our food or water?
Yes, exposure to certain chemicals in our food and water, even personal care products,
Right.
can also act as gerontogens.
So reading labels and like being mindful of what we're putting on our bodies is important too.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about stress.
Yeah.
Chronic stress, whether it's from work or relationships or financial worries, can wreak havoc on our bodies over time.
Yeah.
It can increase inflammation, disrupt hormone balance, and even shorten our telomeres, which are the protective caps on the ends of our chromosomes.
Stress is a silent killer.
It can be. But the good news is that we have a lot of control over our environment and the choices we make.
Right.
You know, we can choose to live in areas with cleaner air. We can eat a healthy diet, prioritize stress management techniques, and even advocate for policies that protect our environment.
So there's a lot we can do to kind of mitigate the negative impacts.
Yes.
And create a more supportive environment for healthy aging.
Exactly. It's about taking a proactive approach to our health and well-being throughout our lives.
Yeah.
Not just when we start to see those wrinkles and gray hairs.
This is all making me wonder about the future of aging.
Yeah.
With all the advancements in technology and healthcare, is it possible that we could extend our lifespans even further?
That's a question scientists and researchers are really grappling with right now.
Yeah.
There are some fascinating developments in areas like gene editing and regenerative medicine, even artificial intelligence.
Wow.
That could potentially impact how we age and how long we live.
Like it's almost like science fiction becoming reality.
It is.
Are you saying that like one day we could live to be 150, 200 years old?
It's certainly a possibility.
Wow.
But it also raises a lot of ethical and societal questions. Like, what would the implications be for our healthcare systems, our economies, even our personal relationships? So these are questions we're going to have to address.
That's a whole other deep dive.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about you as a gerontologist? What excites you most about the future of aging?
Oh, I think what excites me the most is the potential to redefine what it means to grow old. You know, we're moving away from that outdated view of aging as a time of decline and dependence and embracing the possibilities of a longer, healthier, more fulfilling later life.
I love that it's like aging is a continuation of life,
Exactly.
not an ending.
Yes, and with that shift in perspective comes a world of opportunities.
Yeah.
Imagine a future where older adults are not just valued for their wisdom and experience, but also for the continued contributions to society.
Right.
Imagine a world where age is no longer a barrier to pursuing our passions, learning new skills,
Right.
and making a difference in the world.
I'm like, picturing retirement isn't just about, relaxing and playing golf.
Right.
It's about using our accumulated knowledge and skills to mentor others.
Yeah.
Maybe start new businesses.
Yeah.
Give back to our communities
Exactly.
in really meaningful ways.
That's the kind of future I'm excited to see.
Me too.
Mm.
And it's a future that we can all play a part in creating.
Absolutely.
This conversation is making me feel so much more optimistic about getting older.
Good.
It's not something to fear, it's something to embrace.
Right.
And to shape into the experience that we want it to be.
Exactly. And it all starts with understanding the process, debunking the myths, and making informed choices throughout our lives.
So well said. This has been an incredible deep dive into gerontology.
Yeah.
I feel like we've only scratched the surface, but we've covered so much ground.
We have.
It's clear that aging is this complex and multifaceted process.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not all downhill.
No, not at all. It's a journey full of surprises.
Uh-huh.
And with the right knowledge and perspective,
Yeah.
it can be a truly enriching chapter of life.
I love that. So, to our listeners out there, if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity,
Yes.
we encourage you to keep exploring. There are so many resources available.
Yeah.
Books, articles, websites, even other podcasts
For sure.
that can deepen your understanding of aging
Right.
and its impact on individuals and society as a whole.
And remember, the All Sorts podcast is here to help you navigate the complexities of life.
Exactly, one fascinating topic at a time.
Yeah.
So before we sign off, let's leave our listeners with the final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Given everything that we've uncovered about gerontology, about the changing landscape of aging, how do you envision the future of aging? What possibilities excite you? What challenges do we need to address?
Let those questions simmer. We'd love to hear your thoughts on social media.
Yes, you can find us on YouTube, X, Instagram, and Threads. Share your insights, your hopes, your concerns. Let's keep this conversation going because together we can create a world that embraces aging
Yeah.
in all its complexity and beauty.
Beautifully said.
And speaking of keeping this conversation going, we have a whole library of deep dives here at the All Sorts podcast,
Oh, yeah.
just waiting to be explored.
That's right. We've covered everything from the science of happiness to the mysteries of the universe.
Right.
Always with that goal of making you think a little bit differently about the world around you.
Exactly. We're passionate about, sharing knowledge and exploring the world with a sense of wonder. And,
Yeah.
we believe that learning is a lifelong journey, just like aging itself.
Absolutely.
So if you're enjoying this deep dive into gerontology, hit that like button, share it with your friends.
Yeah. Spread the love.
Spread the word about the All Sorts podcast. Invite more people into this conversation.
Exactly.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Follow us on X, Instagram, and Threads for more updates.
Yes.
And behind-the-scenes content. We love connecting with our listeners.
Yes, we do.
And hearing your thoughts on the topics that we cover.
Absolutely, because ultimately the All Sorts podcast is about creating a community of curious minds eager to explore the world together.
So from all of us here at the All Sorts podcast, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into gerontology.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you've gained some new insights, challenged some assumptions, and maybe even sparked a newfound appreciation for the journey of aging.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep those minds open, those hearts curious, and those spirits bright.
And remember, the adventure never ends. It just keeps evolving. So embrace the journey, explore the possibilities, and live each day to the fullest.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Bye.